Hi, welcome to my 18th episode, I think, of Standup Comedy and Rants. I'm going to talk about my trip to Dublin, Ireland. The thing about traveling is you get to see people up close, you listen to them, you hear their stories, and you come up with ideas of what this country is about. Dublin, we came away with a wonderful experience in Dublin. When we first landed, right away, Dublin, came to life. Meaning, I had a taxi arranged to pick us up from the airport, and the taxi guy messaged me through WhatsApp, and he said he's waiting outside and he's waiting here. And we walked outside with our luggage and everything else and looked for him. So I saw this guy standing with his car, and I thought it might be him. He didn't acknowledge me anything. So I walked past him and walked to the next guy. There were other cars parked over there, thinking. Then I said, no, 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 it must be this guy. So we walked back to him and asked him, are you this guy? And he said, yeah. And I was like surprised. He didn't make any, he didn't recognize me or anything. Then he said, oh, I looked at your WhatsApp picture and I didn't recognize you. And right away, it's like, oh man, my WhatsApp picture. I never thought this is something that's important because it was close, but I guess he didn't recognize me. I didn't see many other Indians walk by, so I'm like surprised. I was surprised that he didn't recognize us. But that was my first introduction to Dublin. So I knew this is going to be an interesting place right away. And Dublin is a nice city, It's sort of like it's like a small college town in a big city, It's like it's got the feel of a college town, an American college town, and which I like. And it's a bunch of bars, and obviously there are churches and all that kind of stuff. But it's a city full of bars and pubs. Uh, Another good experience was I went to a comedy club that it had a comedy night nearby. So I said, let me go check out what the Irish comedians have to say. It's a great way to learn about a country, actually, to be honest. Just listen to the comedians because they usually tell you the truth, especially countries where people are free to talk, And Ireland, I think, is one of those. And they don't mind attacking their politicians and all that kind of stuff, just like the US. So I went to this comedy club, and one thing I realized is how the Irish and Indians have some things in common, because right away the comedians started picking on the British. There were four British kids out there, about 20 somethings, and right away they harped on them. There were four or five comedians came in. Everybody harped on those British kids. I almost felt sorry for them. True, they made fun of Americans too, but there's a lot in common with the Americans and the Irish. There's too many Irish here in the U.S. Been here for generations. So I thought that was an interesting coincidence. How the attack on the British, even though obviously 700 years, man, the British ruled Ireland. So and their neighbors. So just it's difficult to get those feelings away. It's too soon, right? So. Uh, then we went on a bus trip. The funny, we went on a bus trip and we were sitting up front close to the driver. The guy, he was also the tour guide. So the tour guide, he was kind of talking to us and all that kind of stuff. See, one of the things I realized as Indian as we look, we're also American, right? So he got confused initially because there was another Indian family just like us, and he assumed they were from India, but they were from the US and just like us. So this confusion is very common, I think, when you travel, because you can't blame them because we look Indian. And but anyway, we started talking about America, and the thing he brought up about Irish Americans. The funny thing is that Irish Americans, they come to Ireland thinking Ireland is still the old conservative Ireland, close-minded, narrow-minded. And these Irish Americans, he said, were narrow-minded. They come thinking Ireland is still the same. But Ireland's changed. Apparently Ireland's now much more liberal, broad-minded. They have immigrants from all over the world coming to Ireland to work and live, and things have changed. So he was kind of complaining about the Irish Americans. So then I was thinking, you know what? I've heard Indian comedians make fun of NRIs the same way, close-minded, narrow-minded NRIs coming to India trying to see if. So anyway, at the end of the day, Irish and the Indians, we have a lot in common. I actually actually enjoy being in Ireland. It's a wonderful country. And the problem with me looking Indian and having an American passport is now we got to defend both countries when you're traveling. So any nonsense that happens in the US, any nonsense that happens in India, I got to answer this. So keep the nonsense down, guys. All right, take care.